Hi and welcome from Bracklesham Board Riders. It's the middle of February. It's absolutely nailing it down with rain outside, super gusty wind conditions and high tide, so not really a great time for doing anything. So thought we'd have a quick run through some equipment. This is for the complete beginner. If you're anywhere past that stage, you already know your preferences, so there's not much point. But we'll cover some new gear as we go along. So as a beginner, what are you looking out for? Well, in terms of winging, any style of wing, to be honest, it doesn't make a huge amount of difference. You're still going to have to go through that learning curve anyway, so whichever wing you choose, it's not going to make a massive amount of difference. Of course, there are some wings that are going to be slightly more easier than others in different aspects of their performance. So some might be slightly easier to get off the water, some might sit a little bit further back, which will give you a bit more low end, so make it a little bit easier. But for the part, not a huge amount of difference at your beginner stage. When you look at the boards, and we'll do a quick overview in a minute, there are some differences, and they will make your life a lot easier. So, wings. This one here is a new one from GA, from Gastra. It's not a release yet, so this is purely prototype stage, so I just have to throw it out there. We've been having a good look over it, and lucky enough to be left this one, and it ticks a lot of boxes actually. The price point hopefully is going to be very good. It's got a good selection of handles on for placement while you're holding the wing, good thick leading edge, and stays thick out towards the tip, so you don't get the folding effect on the wing so much. That obviously makes it a lot more stable. In terms of its overall shape, very similar to others on the market. Of course, they're all very similar to each other. Subtle differences throughout though, mostly in terms of handles, handle sizes, handle placement, inflate valves, and inflate tubes as well. For example, a number of manufacturers have cottoned on to the fact of having a nice big inflation tube between the leading edge and the central strut here. Because they are very, very chunky, it's a lot of air, so when you're not so much an issue when you're inflating it, but when deflating it, big tubes rule. Also the ability to have a lock-off valve as well on there in case you do have to do a pack down. It's much easier to try and roll it in a sausage shape like you would do with a kitesurf kite, lay it on top of your board, paddle on in. So the Gastra kite, again, similar design. They've gone for some windows, and they're not the only brand to do that actually this year. There's another big name brand, one of the first on the market last year, who've put some windows in as well. Bit windsurfy, and not entirely sure if you need them or not, maybe on some super busy beaches, but there we are. Personally, I think I'll be quite happy with just material, keeps the weight down as well. Size-wise as well, people seem to be mixing up the sizes. Started off with really nice kite-based sizes, so you know, 3, 4, 5, 6 standard sizes. Now everyone's going a bit wacky, and it actually seems to get very windsurfy, so 4.2s, 4.6s. Not quite sure why they've done that. Big inflate valves as well, key thing. Pretty much standard, let's face it, across all manufacturers of kites and now wing foils. It's a lot of air to get in, and so the easier the better. Right, behind this one, try and shove this out of the way somewhere, is the Wasp. Probably one of the most popular ones on the market at the moment, I would say. Good mix between price point, quality, obviously with ozone quality, never in dispute. You can see straight away a lot of the little extra features that ozone do, so there's a lot of reinforcement, and yet strangely still lighter than most on the market at the moment, probably because they haven't got things like the panels with the windows in here, which add a lot of weight. A really chunky strut on this one. My only comment on this, and it's, you know, let's face it, it's only for packing down really, is that it does have a teeny weeny tube linking the two, linking the strut to the leading edge, and that does make it not a struggle, but just a little bit longer, a little bit more awkward to pack down. Apart from that, more grab straps along here. So what they've done is they've subdivided it a little bit more than say the Proto that we've got here from the GA, and these are slightly longer as well on the diagonals. Ridden this one, flies very well. Very easy to spin around to get going with. Very predictable as well if you just want to hold it out to one side to have a breather, or if you're being really cool heading down the wave if you want to just hold it out. But again, we're talking beginners here. Nice design. And then we also have the slingshot wing, first one from the slingshot as well. So again, this came out last year along with the Wasp. Again, super chunky leading edge, typical bomb-proof build quality. The straps held off a little bit as well, so you've got a bit more kind of area behind your hand here, but also brings the holding position closer to you while the wing stays slightly further away. Perhaps a bit more of a relaxed ride. It's the only one that's got a separate dump valve actually. Not sure why. Half decent sized tube, linking it all together. So it's kind of like an in-between. It's not quite as teeny as that one, not quite as big as that one, but they do have lock-off valves. The slingshot one's probably different to all the others because it's got the inflating trailing edge. Not quite sure on the design purpose of that. I don't really think it adds a great deal to the aerodynamics. I suppose they say it reinforces and prevents the trailing edge flutter, but it's not really a huge issue, I would say. I suppose if you if you had to do a pack down and all the rest of it, it would come in handy. Obviously slightly heavier because you have got a bladder along the trailing edge. One of the benefits though, as a beginner, is it actually keeps the wing slightly down. The extra weight on the trailing edge allows the wing to sit slightly further back, which actually takes some of the weight off the back arm, and it sits slightly further back when you're using it. Again, if you're super advanced and you're going to be, I don't know, riding some massive wave out in Mauritius or something like that, not convinced you would choose this as your weapon of choice if you had access to everything else. However, again, for a beginner stage, not a bad wing actually. Key thing about this one as well now is they've just reduced it in price until they're completely gone. So what with redesigns and everything else over the years, so I think you can pick this up. I'll double check, it'll be on the website anyway. You can pick this up for $5.99 now, which actually is an entry-level wing into the sport. Is and for probably 85% of people who are ever going to do this, not a bad offer at all. Right, let's get the wings moved out of the way. Oh, just to recap, Wasp I think is 729 off the top of my head in a 4 meter. This is the 4 meter. Other sizes are now available. They're adding to the range, as are most of the wing people. And a key point for all round, most that you're going to go out. Well, let's face it, you're probably not going to go out much more than 20 knots in the UK anyway. If you want an all-round wing that you could learn on to start with on your normal size SUP and then continue on with, we still think around about the 4 meter is the go-to size. And obviously the slingshot do their own. They have their own slightly out sizes as well, but both the GA and this are 4 meters, just to give you some idea of sizes. GA, not sure on pricing yet. Heard a rumour about the 600 mark, but we're not sure exactly yet. So foil and board. So we've just got these ones out just to show you because we've been playing around on these. So tend to find most people are going for a kind of 75 centimetre mast. Very similar to what people were doing in kite foiling actually. Most people are finding 90 too long for the majority, and 50 is just that tiny little bit too small for the most part, especially if you're in choppy conditions like we have out the front down here. Obviously if you're going out on a lake you could get away with 50 to learn on, and that would reduce your angle of impact if you get it all wrong. But big wing sizes, big wings seem to be no doubt the way forward. There's all sorts on offer. Slingshot do an all-right wing, bit of publicity. Yep, Slingshot, they do an all-right wing. Duotone do a cracking wing as well, as do Axis as well. It's also a very good wing. And if you're feeling really flush, there's a company called Armstrong, and they do a beautiful one. However, there's a price point to go with it. Entry level, big is better. Don't let anyone tell you else. And apart from the mast, that is, stick with anything up to a 75, and that gives you enough clearance to get it up and out of the water, to have fun with it. But again, if you get it wrong, it's a lot less angle of attack to survive the bounce back up again, and that's all it's really about. And then board wise, literage. Again, just using the Slingshot one because we've got it here at the moment to have a play around with. This one is the 6.6, I think it is. 6'6" outward, so that's around about 120 odd litres. Very wide, quite short, lots of volume, quite flat along the bottom as well. And really its only purpose is to just kind of get you bobbing along the water, provide a bit of stability, and get you until you can get yourself up and on that wing and going. My honest opinion is, if you're thinking about getting into winging, just buy the wing to start with. Grab a wing, grab your normal sup, you know, your 10-6, you know, Fanatic, or your even your inflatable if you want to. You're not going to go roosting up wind on it at all. However, it will give you the familiarity of using your own board with you know, enough volume in it, along with riding the wing, so you can just concentrate on riding with that wing and feeling where the power comes in. I think from personal experience, if you're going out and trying to do the foil board and the foil wing at the same time, you're making life a bit more difficult than what you need to for yourself. So I'd always suggest just getting on a standard sup first, having a play with the wing, getting used to how it feels, what happens if you let go of it, how to turn it over, how to hold it, just the general kind of, you know, messing around. Not too serious. Get a couple of hours under your belt with that, and then once you've done that, head across it onto your foil board. This one here is I'm 95 kilos ish. This one's just a tickly bit too small for me, I would say, only because once I get up and riding on it, I'm putting from my kite foiling, I'm used to putting quite a lot of front foot pressure on it, and I can bury the nose quite easily. I have to stand quite far back, but then once it starts lifting, the nose end suddenly rises up onto the foil, and I'm having to weight shift forward again. So personally, I'd actually, you know, if you're 85 to 95 kilos, I'd aim for something around about a 140 size board to get going with. Again, it all depends what you want out of it, because if you're buying a big board to start with, and I don't know, say you want to use it for riding, you know, waves later on, it's going to feel too big. The downside is if you get a small board to start with and you're trying to cope with all the chop and everything else in usual South Coast conditions we have here, then you might have to go through a bit more of a struggle to start with. So it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another. My own personal opinion is go big to start with. If you have to, move that board on and then buy something a bit more suitable down the line. I think you'll save yourself hours of grief. The slingshot comes in all different sizes. The Fanatic do a wonderful range as well. Or if you're into, you know, fancy something a bit more custom, then there's other options. Again, Armstrong, who are out in New Zealand, make a wonderful board with a price tag to go with it. However, beautifully designed. And there's privates as well. You can go the custom route. There's JP over in Wales as well. And he'll produce anything you like. For him, we're going to go for around about kind of, you know, 7 foot, 140 litres as a board to keep here for people to have a go on. That being said, we have got some wings here. We've got them in stock. If you want any more information at all, pick up the phone, give us a call, and if you want to come down and have a look at them in person, please do. We'd be happy to chat you through the range. Many thanks. Bye now.